Hello and welcome back to another episode of Moon Catching with Erica. I am Erica. Today I wanted to share with you a little bit about my own fertility journey and what it was like to experience that as a so-called fertility expert. And I wanted to share with you also the powerful shift and the powerful lesson that all of this has taught me. So stick around. I just wanted to share a little bit about my story. I just want to share what I would say one powerful lesson that I learned about myself and about this whole fertility space through my own journey through secondary infertility as a fertility expert, and share a little bit more about what that has been like for me. So I'll just do a little backstory real quick. I've been running moon catching for a few years now. And right when I graduated from my master's program with nutrition, I always knew I wanted to work with women. I always knew I wanted to work with women. And I was always fascinated about the birthing experience. And nutrition is just one of those things that kind of is the cornerstone of everything that's health, right? And so I had just had my daughter, and I was in the blissful bubble of the craziness, but the blissful bubble of that. And at the same time, a lot of people, friends and family around me were struggling to get pregnant. And these are people who have been married longer than me, who have been trying longer than me. These are people who are younger than me, people who are older than me. It was just, there was no rhyme or reason, right? And these are women that I loved and cared for dearly. And then, the more I started talking about these things, the more I found out that this person in my family had a miscarriage then, and this person in my family, went through all these things. So it just kind of was this, and I'm here with my brand new daughter, and it's just like, just feeling that, I don't know if it's empathy, sympathy, whichever one, just feeling that, I have this thing that I'm so thankful to have. And it's not guaranteed for everyone else, and it was just it just weighed on me so much. And so that's when I kind of figured out, okay, I wanted to help women with their fertility, women's health, reproductive health, like that whole spectrum, right? And so, I wanted to figure out what was going on, because not every woman who's overweight can't get pregnant. Not every woman who has fibroids can't get pregnant. Not everyone who's older than, in their late 30s can't get pregnant. So what's going on with when does it work and when doesn't it work? And we're saying that these are the risk factors, but why is it more people feel, it's like she got pregnant so easy, So I wanted to get to the, just figure out what was going on with all that. There has to be a rhyme or reason. And you cannot be, I have went to undergrad for biology, master's program in nutrition. You can't leave those things without having this immense awe of the human body and the way that it works and the way that it functions and just the capabilities of the body. So I knew that the body is capable of such amazing things. So it's like, why is it that when fertility is being discussed, it's such doom and gloom, and it's like, oh, it's going to take a while, and you're going to have to spend all this money, and you're going to have all these cycles, and you're going to go through so much loss and pain. Like, why is that the story? And the human body is amazing. And, the female body is even more incredible. It's like we are capable of so much. So that's when I realized, okay, not only do I want to work with women's health and women, I want to specifically work with fertility. And it took me a minute to kind of get comfortable with that, with that claim. But once I did, I kind of found my groove. And then I had a miscarriage. And hold on, let's see comment. Hold on. I honestly don't know any woman that hasn't had a miscarriage. That is insane. So it's supposed to be 1 in 4. But I agree with you. I feel like that statistic is not high enough. I have a group of friends, and there are 6 of us, and it's four of 6. And that's just that one group. I have another group, but I can do the math all over again, right? And so I agree with you. Yeah, it's insane. And so I was saying that right when I decided to niche down and, really dived in and start supporting women with helping them get pregnant. I remember, I had just found out that I was pregnant and I was just so excited. And I'm working in this fertility space and now I'm pregnant. And then I had a miscarriage. And if you've had one, or know someone who's had one or are human, you can imagine how devastating it is and how it's just really painful to go through. And and during that time, again, I'm here working as I'm a fertility coach. Come and hire me. I can help you get pregnant. I can help you have your dream baby, your miracle baby. And so I was not only dealing with the pain and the grief of, the loss, losing a baby, but then I also realized that I was starting to feel all these other feelings of like imposter syndrome. And I really just felt like a fraud. I felt embarrassed, basically. Like, how dare I claim that I can help anybody when I couldn't help myself? And then, thinking from my client's perspective or, potential client's perspective, like she can't get herself pregnant. She can't help herself. Why would I trust her? And so I just started taking on all those feelings. I wasn't ashamed of, I don't think if I wasn't working in the space I was working in, I don't think I would have had those shameful feelings of, I'm a woman, my body can't do those things. I wasn't there with the shame, which I know a lot of women go through that. But I was just feeling ashamed of, and just unsure of myself and just unsure of how did I get here? Why am I here? How am I going to figure all this out when I can't? It just seems so big. And I just at the time, I just really wanted people to trust me. I was trying to build a business for business sake, but I was also trying to build a business that I consider a place of service. Like, I consider what I do in support of women and mamas and just trying to help and guide and ease and soothe anything that I can. If I can just help one person, get pregnant, if I can help one person feel like she has a chance, I can help one person feel like it's not hopeless. That's where I still see myself. That's where I saw myself. And so it was just a matter of, how am I supposed to do this thing that I'm desiring to do when I can't do it for myself? But I would say that is when the shift came. Because I realized that I'm human. And if you are someone who has experienced a miscarriage, I definitely want to encourage you and remind you that none of this is your fault. Um, None of this is nothing that you did wrong. It's nothing that you should have did. It's nothing that you can be at fault for or be blaming yourself for. Because, you know, a lot of times we're even punishing ourselves. We may be punishing ourselves for the abortion that we had in undergrad. We may be, thinking that this is a punishment for that, or something else that you did in life. Is, of course, your brain will do really crazy things, and your mind will take over, and you'll go down these really dark paths. But I just wanted to say today, if you're holding on to any guilt, any responsibility for any of this, to let that go. And I went through that, certainly after my first miscarriage and after my second miscarriage. What did I do wrong? And I think it's normal and natural. I think it's maybe part of the grieving process, as long as you can get yourself on the other side of it and to come to terms with that. There's nothing that you did wrong. Because it does happen. It is common. It does happen in, again, the numbers 1 and 4. And that's just for biological reasons, because getting pregnant and creating life is not as simple. Like, it starts like, the baby starts as big as something like the size of a period at the end of a sentence. That's insane. That's insane. So for that to go through all these scientific, chemical, biological processes, to have a baby on the other end with all the fingers and toes that can cry and has hearts and lungs, it's insane. And so along that process, if something goes wrong, or if your body, if something in those steps doesn't go right, we can't seem to blame ourselves. That's an impossibility that even happened. And so anything that we are holding on to, I really hope that we can. I want to give you permission to let that go, to let go of any guilt that you're holding on to. Um, I would say, just like grief isn't linear, maybe none of this is linear. So maybe you will have days where you do fall back and you think about those things, but hopefully, overall, we are realizing and knowing and we are aware that none of this isn't our fault. And so, um, going back to what I was saying about the shift that I feel like I had at some point, I just realized that because I'm human, I'm not exempt from human things. I'm not special. I'm not, um, you know, I don't have some protection. We're all here going through this lived experience of life and just trying to, make do as we can. But um, as I was going through those feelings, I realized that, the one thing I will say that does make me different than you or someone else who's also experienced a miscarriage is that I have a voice and that I have this platform and that I have an audience, not for vanity metrics, but for the sake of being able to, again, speak this thing that sometimes is very difficult to talk about, to give a voice to it, to share my story, to share my experience, to share my pain in a way that maybe someone else, can't. And at some point, it became like something I was choking on. I was so caught up again in the shame and the fear and in the just feeling like I was a fraud, but it almost started to physically get caught in my throat, physically, like it just had to get out. And so when I started to share more about my story and more about my loss and, sharing that, yeah, this happened to me, um, the amount of love and encouragement that I was covered in was just so amazing. And again, I just feel like I was able to use use it, when almost basically in a sense of turning my pain into my passion, like, and letting that fuel my passion, being able to take something that was very painful and use it, not saying like, everything happens for a reason and, I need to go through this, I would never start talking like that, but I'm here. I am here now. I can't change where I am. So what am I going to do about it? How am I going to use that? And so just trying to get to a point where I was comfortable sharing. And now it's like, this is all I talk about. This is all that I share about because I just always want to remind anybody who is listening, that it is as painful as it is, there is, there are people out there who share the same experience. There are people who are out there going through the same thing. And we are not alone because it can be so dark and bleak and desolate and all those words when you're dealing with it. Even if you have a partner, you have the most amazing partner, you have the most amazing family, but it's still something about it that gives it this solitary thing. I know because we are the one carrying, I maybe it's that, but it's, I definitely feel like my husband is great and very supportive, but I know that he will never experience it the exact same way. Not saying one is better or worse or whatever. I'm not trying to get into that, but we won't have the same experience of it, right? And so, being able to understand that, my position, my job, my knowledge, it didn't give me a get out of jail free card. But what it did give me was hope. What it did give me was, again, everything that I know, but everything that I've learned, from all of my studies, all of my research, there's no way that I could stay in a place of depression and despair because I know too much. I know too much about the way that the body is capable of healing. I know too much about the way that the body operates. I know too much about the way that the body, the way we were created. We have a center balance, a center alignment that all of our bodies have. Ours are different. It's like a blueprint or a fingerprint. It's like a fingerprint, right? It's different, but we all have our own unique alignment, and it's all about getting back to the alignment. So everything that I've learned, I'm like, okay, there has to be, which is why I started in the first place. Why is it that one woman goes through this and one doesn't, even if they have the same condition? Why is it that it's harder for some of us than not? So because I was able to pull on that and draw on that, is okay, how can I dig deeper into this? How can I start to amplify this more? Because I have basically, somewhere down the line, I basically have set myself up as an alternative to IVF. And that is not, and I know plenty of women who have gone through IVF, who have IVF babies, I have IVF nieces and nephews. So I'm not here to say it is wrong or bad or any of that, right? But I do know that some of us have different desires. Some of us desire to do things differently. Some of us have different mindsets and what's the word, priorities, and just philosophies and outlooks and views on life, right? And certainly on our fertility and how we want to grow or start our family. So I always love to remind people that we do have an option. We do have a way to, still have access to a natural pregnancy, because some of us, and I know, actually, I take that back. Every woman would want to have a natural pregnancy. I don't think anyone wants to take pills and take shots and get their eggs removed, and no one wants that. No one would sign up for that voluntarily. So I'm not trying to say that, but I do know that at some point I decided that IVF wasn't going to be on the table for me. Now, yes, I had my daughter, and I had the wonderful experience of having a birth and having a pregnancy. So maybe that gave me a privilege to make that decision. And someone else who hasn't had their first child yet, maybe they're like, I'm not taking anything off the table. I want all my options. So, so I do see that maybe that helped me make that decision. But that's where I landed. I landed with, well, first of all, I distinctly remember talking to my husband, like, I don't want our story to end like this. After we had our second miscarriage, like, this can't end like this. There's no way that this can end like this. And then at some point, I looked up the statistics. So basically, um, um, the odds of having one miscarriage, okay, the odds of having two miscarriages is like, 5% of women. And the odds of having three miscarriages, like 1% of women. So it's like, and I was basically joking. I'm like, I'm not that lucky. I'm not that lucky to be pulled in that 1%. I've never won anything in my life, So I don't want to win this lottery either. I don't win the 1% lottery of having three miscarriages. And so I would say that having those realizations that, I do want to continue to speak up and speak out and be as loud as possible, and to, get as much attention on myself and my story as possible, and not saying that everyone is going to work with me or will work with me or should work with me or needs to work with me or is the right person for me to work with. But just for the awareness that there is an option. There's a school of thought of holistic fertility treatments. I'm not the first to do this. I'm thankful to, and, excited to be joining a lot of other women who do the same thing, from doctors to acupuncturists to other nutritionists and dietitians, and all these people who are who have drank the Kool-Aid basically, and are in agreement and understanding that your body, because this is something that your body should be able to do, there's a way to get your body to do it. That's basically as simple as I can break it down, right? The idea of functional medicine and the holistic approach. It's not we're trying to get your body to, lay an egg, right? It is something that our body should already naturally be able to do. So it all comes down to the why. Why all of a sudden can't you? What happened? What happened that day to this day that changed? And because our world, our society, our lifestyles are not set up to support women, to support mothers, to support women in their reproductive years. And because of the way that the world is, I always sound like a fanatic, but the world is definitely more poisonous, right, than it once was. So there has been research that shows that basically the change in our environment and the increase in low fertility are not, what's the word? Is not a coincidence. They are definitely correlated, right? You can argue causation versus correlation, but the increase in both have been happening simultaneously. So it's like, okay, this is obviously a good place to start. And so to understand that the holistic side of things, the holistic side, okay, let's get your body back to its unique alignment. Let's get your body back to the way that it wants to do things, right? The way that it was intended to do things. And I think now that I am in week 21 of this rainbow pregnancy, on my way to meet my rainbow baby. And I was telling a friend, that it's kind of interesting that the way joy and grief are kind of intertwined. And I guess it's probably because they're probably on opposite sides of the same coin. So you can't really separate the two, right? The whole light and darkness. You have to have both. And yesterday we did our ultrasound. So basically, this is the anatomy scan that everyone gets halfway through their pregnancy. And because I chose to forego previous ultrasounds, I've only been using the Doppler for personal reasons. I chose to minimize my exposure and baby's exposure. So which is a decision because you don't get that validation early on. And you have to wait to hear the heartbeat, all that other stuff. But anyway, so yesterday we were able to finally see our baby, and it was such an incredible experience. But going in, you're definitely kind of nervous and worried. And she's asking, I was nervous and worried, but also super excited, like, oh my goodness, this is it. I get to finally see the baby. And so, she asked, your date of birth, your name, just verify you are who you say you are. And then she's like, how many pregnancies? I was like, oh, 4. She's like, how many children? 1. And so even in this moment of, I was definitely nervous, but, I was mostly excited. Even this moment of excitement and, anticipation, I get to finally see, it's definitely like a reminder that, there were 4. I've been pregnant 4 times. Didn't get to meet 2 of those children. And I'm praying that I'll get to meet this one, right? But in the midst of all this, I'm definitely so thankful and so excited. And I, have trying to, I want to share, but I don't want to share too much because I've been there where I couldn't even look at my own pregnancy pictures from when I was pregnant with Ray. Like I couldn't even look at my own self, let alone see this post, see that post, see this woman at the grocery store, hear about this, close friends of mine who, we were pregnant at the same time, their babies were born and mine weren't, all those type of things are happening. And, it's very difficult to interact with those things. It's very difficult to, because you want to protect yourself, but you also want to be happy for people around you. But when I realized I couldn't even look at my own pregnancy pictures or look at baby pictures of my daughter, because it was just too painful. I'm like, okay, this is definitely rough. But I also at some point, which helped me kind of shift my thinking, I don't know if you've gotten here yet either, is that I don't know her story. I don't know her pain. I don't know her grief. I don't know how many years that woman cried to get pregnant. I don't know how much loss she has endured to finally be where she is. And so any envy that I was feeling, any, longing or I wish that was me, I had to check that because maybe you don't wish that was you. You don't know what she endured. Thankfully, it was 2 years. It took us 2 years of trying, but I would say the first year I was level of concern, 3. The second year was like, oh, off the charts. Okay, when I realized, second miscarriage. Like, oh, this isn't just this is just normal. It happens. Um, so so sometimes I think maybe it's just almost 1 year of like the really intense, grief and depression of wanting to have my baby. But the point I'm making is that you don't know someone's story, and so I certainly try not to boast or brag or go over the top talking about being pregnant now, but you all know my story. You know what I've gone through, or at least maybe by today you do. You know what I've gone through. And losing the first pregnancy at 5 weeks, losing the second pregnancy at 10 weeks, it was definitely very difficult to even start to enjoy this pregnancy and to, because I like being pregnant. I was that girl. I mean, I don't know how many of us there are out there, but I love being pregnant. And I didn't get to experience that with this one. I still haven't quite gotten back to that same version of myself, when I was pregnant with Reagan. But anytime that I share, it is only to be a reminder. It is only to be a blinding beacon of hope and just reassurance and just, you know, testimony that to be able to shift your fertility and shift your future, to shift, the outcome. Like, how is this all going to end? Like I said, I was just like, I can't believe that this is how our story is going to end. Like, I don't want it to end like this. I don't know who I would be if, when it was all said and done, that's how my story ended, with all this loss and pain. And, that's what we definitely see a lot on social media, which, by the way, if you need to take a social media break here and then, I definitely advise it, because it's okay to need to protect yourself. And there's so much, even so, I follow a lot of IVF pages and a lot of fertility pages, and it's just, even being pregnant now, it's like there's still so much grief and sadness that everyone else is still sharing. So it kind of, it's very hard to navigate all those spaces. So I like to share my story, and I like to be a reminder, and I like to be something positive, but I know what it's like to not be able to hear that. I know what it's like to not be able to be excited about somebody else. I know what it's like to not be able to find the joy in their joy. And that's 100% completely okay. We are all able to, make the decisions that we need to make for ourselves. But I definitely hope to continue to be the voice, to use my voice, to use my platform, and any way that I can to basically be the reminder that it is possible. And maybe my story, it was only a few years, and maybe you've been doing it for 5 already, or 7, or I don't know everyone's story, right? And so I don't want to negate that, because there is some time when we may choose to just protect our heart. But as I posted yesterday, before you give up on the chances of natural pregnancy, make sure, I would encourage you to make sure that you do everything possible. And if that means, following the holistic route, then that's what I'm here to encourage you to do, to make you aware that it is possible, that this is something that is available to you. This is certainly what I did, is what I've helped other clients do. I just talk about my story the most because it's my story and I know it from front to back, and so I just talk about it the most. But, this is not something that has to be unique to me. This is not, I don't need to be the exception on this. I hope not to be. We're all in this together. This was it the worst club with the best members. So we are all in this together. And even though, again, 2 years in, 2 angel babies later, I definitely, if it worked for me, it can work for you. So don't give up. Don't give up. Please keep trying. And I hope that something that you see here on my page, things that I say, words of encouragement, any advice that I give, I certainly hope that it can help you on your fertility journey and your journey to motherhood. for the first time or even again. So, um, if you're interested to work with me, my doors are always open. For a call or a text, DM, anything that you want to do to reach out and find out more about me and working with me. But I definitely hope that you find something, even if it's not me, right? I just want everyone to have a plan. What's your plan? How do you plan on, the bridge, right? You're at A, you're trying to get to B. What's your plan to get there, right? So hopefully everyone is figuring that out for themselves. But I am here if you need me, and I love you all, and I hope to continue to support you, and I hope that my information and messaging is supportive for you. Thank you so much for everyone who joined and watched live. Thank you if you didn't watch live, but you are watching the replay. Thank you for watching, and I hope that what I shared today is some encouragement for you. And I will see you on the next video. Bye.